It's time to do the Wednesday on February 25th. This one is by Brad Lively, and I can see something's going on already. What an interesting theme this should be. So, again, it's okay. So, some kind of breakdancing move, maybe? Emulates the three figures in this puzzle. Break dances. I think that's what it is. Break dances. It's an interesting one. I didn't know, I'm surprised, let's see if there's something going on here. I wonder if we're gonna eventually put letters in these squares. So maybe there's something even more going on than just this being a single block. Maybe like a sort of similar to a black square. But let's see if something else. SSNs. I always like it when there's a theme that has something more visual than just the, standard black and white squares. So this is something interesting going on. I'm excited to see what this is about because New York Times always makes choices, and when they make a choice like this, you always have to wonder: there's a good reason for it. Connected with an ed, I think. Supped, dined, perhaps. And what is this? Result of a solo homer, right? Is a run batted in. Is a single RBI in baseball. Like the sign for Radio City is neon, and a roof projection is an eve. This is probably above. And N-E Nene. It's a Hawaiian goose. This might have been the third time I've seen this, like this year. Connected. Connected. I don't know. N-K. What letter could go there? Linked. That's what it is. Connected is linked. Scraped by is eked by. What is this? Retail chain is IKEA. What's next? Thumbs down votes. So it's nays, yay and nay. So actor Steven of Beef and Nope as Steven Yo. No, wait, sorry, wait. Steven, it's not Yo. Wait, hold on. Steven Yoon, sorry. No, it's not Yo. It's I got my Michelle Yeoh and Steven Yoon mixed up. It's Yoon. Second chance show, probably a rerun. What is this? Paradises are Edens. This is one of those words that I wouldn't have ever referred to like in the way that the puzzle says. Eden being a paradise, but I wouldn't refer to Edens, plural, in the same way. Although like I can reasonably get this answer. I think this is just something that you would only be able to get if you've seen this in a puzzle before, because I don't know. There's just some kind of disconnect between speech, like naturally, and then also just kind of the way that people like to write clues in crosswords. Really awful. Too bad, so bad. Really, it could be too bad, but I think of too bad as being more like a condolence rather than an actual review of something being really bad. I'm gonna go with too bad because I don't know what else it could be. Stays in line. Maybe this is an S at the end because this is stays. So maybe it's bad. I'm gonna go with it's bad. Was a fangirl of could be stand. Post quickly as the heart. Am I supposed to know what this letter is? Let's take a look at this. Villain ranks number 1. I feel like this could be ballet because it's the letters are breaking dance. I'm gonna go with that. Then let's see. Cyberpunk. I like this one. I think this one's probably right. Is a troll. A punk on the internet might be a troll. That's a fun one. Bears heirs. I think the Cubs. They're just like the offspring. A QR code might access one in a URL. And 60 minuti. This is Italian, I think. Is it? It probably is Italian, and in any case, I'm pretty sure that the way that you would say an hour in Italian is ora, like that. E-bike alternative could be a scooter. One. This looks like it's a partial phrase. One at a time. You'll see this a lot when you have 3, sometimes 4-letter answers. Sometimes it is allowed to have 2 words in the fill in the blank. Purplish perennial. I think it's an aster. It's funny because I always like know these names, but I never actually can make the connection of what the flower actually looks like. Mostly I'm just going by what letters I have and just kind of predicting what answer I've seen before, what kind of flower. But it's interesting because I don't think I've actually um, seen an aster, or at least I can't identify an aster. Um, there are a lot of really common names of some common flowers that I haven't heard of before. Well, that I have heard of before, but I haven't been able to like identify because I don't know what they actually look like. An example of this is I have these flowers that I like grow really quickly and they're kind of yellow and they kind of like droop down and I have them in a little pot that like I have watered and I only realized like after a week that they were actually daffodils and I just never knew that. Like I never knew that those specific flowers were daffodils. Like the label on the pot just says something different. It's probably a British name. But yeah, I mean, it's also a learning process for me. It kind of shows that there's a difference between knowing something enough for a crossword and actually like knowing what the thing is. I wouldn't say I actually know what asters are, but I do know that they're purple now. Villain ranked number one on AFI's 100 years. Oh, Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter. Uh, I don't know what movie that was from again. Oh, this looks like a C. I'm gonna go with a C there. That's so cool. That might be a Y then. That might be a V. A tick dog could be a vet because it might check out ticks. That's right. Tribal home, maybe informally. Tribal home. What could this be? R-E... A rex? What is this word? Rev? Tribal home, maybe informally. There are a lot of modifiers after this. Okay, so a tribal home. An example of a tribal home, for short. Uh, what could that be? Rev. Oh, a reservation. Tribal home is a reservation, and informally is res, like this, with an rez. I've seen this word res to mean reservation, so I'm gonna go with that. Um, oh, and look at this. Where you might lose your way is a maze. Okay, inverse of kilo. So kilo means 1,000. So 1,000th would be milli. Gymnast Corbett, who dubbed the Sparrow from Minsk. I don't know. Soundtrack. I don't know. Combatant in an octagon-shaped cage. Okay, so some kind of fighter. MMA fighter, probably. MMA fighter, that's right. Emo hair, probably. Calculated ratios, something with an S at the end. Possessed is had. Military authority. Calculated ratios is the odds that were calculated. Military authority could be commander. I think that's what CMD is. Soundtrack is to echolocate. This is such a nice one. I really like these short. It's short and sweet. This one and also this one. Very nice finds from Brad. Okay, when repeated, it means preach. Well, okay, so the meaning of this is if you say the word here, like here, that's sort of a toast, kind of like saying it essentially means preach in that sense. What is this? When repeated, secret. Same thing here. So hush hush means secret. So-called melting pot is the USA in brief. Pair of cymbals in the drum kit is a hi-hat. So they're the things that kind of clap. Like you kind of have a pedal between the two, and then when you press up down the pedal, then the two cymbals just kind of like close, and then you have different sounds with that too. This looks like Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh. Van Gogh. Interesting that these are all names of people. I wonder if that was intentional. What is this? Oh, this is not a name, but that's all right. This looks like a Y. I'm gonna go with Y here. Era competitor. What's an era competitor? I don't know. Behaves is acts. Behaves weird, acts weird, for instance. Zero could be nada. Alternatively, every time you see zero could also be synonymous with nada, zip, zilch, things like that. None, I suppose, could also work. So-called Queen of Pop is Rihanna. Looks like it. But I didn't know that was her nickname. Lotto-like casino game. Lotto-like. Maybe it's not Rihanna. Sorry, Queen of Pop. Maybe I'm thinking something else. Madonna. I say that because the Lotto-like casino game, in my opinion, is Keno. I think it is Madonna actually. Rihanna is. Well, I mean, she was also very famous, and very successful. Like one of the most successful pop stars there. But I think Madonna historically is probably more fit to be the queen of pop, so they say. Okay, to pawn. A pawn might also just be like a mark. Maybe it's sort of like an easy target pawn, just something that can be used easily. Let's take a look at something else. Taps casino table. I think it's hit me in blackjack, for instance. So, to pawn might be to hawk, might be to sell off something, to hawk it, I guess. Concerning is in ray, sort of on a memo like office abbreviation, just kind of jargon like that. One is subject to a curfew, could be a teen. And what is this? Long time inside the NBA. Oh, analyst is O'Neal. That's not pawn. Um, O'Neal. Then what is this? Eli Manning, former Giant. Then what is this? To hawk like this? I didn't know that's how you spelled it. Um, Perhaps that's not a Y. That's a T. That's a T. Then this could be tied for. I guess like laundry detergent possibly. I didn't never heard of era. At least I can't think of something right now. But we're gonna go with that. Failing to pay bills on time may affect this credit score. And of course, that's breaking disco. We have tango and ballet. And the nice thing is that all of these symbols look like the letter that it represents going down: race, vet, and tide. Okay, healthy self image. Healthy self image. Let's just move on. Summer treats in small cups. Summer treats. Ices. Um, sure, maybe. Ices and I guess it's short for something like maybe like ice cream, ice in general for like lollipops as well. Sorry, popsicles maybe. A god depicted with a bow. I think it's Eros. Forgot what he's the god of. Love, I think. Probably something like that. Word between word and word. So there's some phrase, word blank word. Word for word. And of course, that's a word between word and word. Nice construction of this clue. I like it. To intervene is to chime in, is to butt in. What is this word? Sounds of sudden vanishing is poofs. Okay. What is this? Gymnast Corbett, Olga, and I think this an ache as a reason to take a painkiller. Okay. To tie up is to. Let's look at something else. A deck in divination. Divination being like you have card readers that can predict your future, like psychics, and tarot cards is what they use. Healthy self image, a CT scan. So a self image that's related to health is a CT scan. Look at all of these, really nice. I'm very happy with these, uh, with these question mark clues. They're so clever, and so elegant too. I just like that. Signs of trouble. Signs of trouble. You have treble clefs. To step in is to intervene. That's right. And to lace is to tie up. Yeah, treble clef. Signs of trouble. Very punny one here, and then sort of very tricky ones here actually. Cyberpunk and what was it? Echolocate. I'm very happy with this. This is new to me. Is I had no idea. Perhaps visual, visual aids, demographics. Perhaps visual aids. Bubbles in a bubble bath could be suds, and I never understood this word because I don't know. Like I've never used this word myself. I only seen it here before, and it seems like it's a word that other people have heard of before. You know, like they talk about like sudsy water or something like when it's like very soapy. And I was just so baffled when I saw this word because like it looks like it's a word that only has only comes with an S at the end. You don't have there's no word that's just SUD sud. Just you can't have one sud, but you can have like suds in a sense like that. And I don't know what to make of that. I'm sure other people that have actually used this word before could get it. I suppose it's just one of those cases where there just happens to be a word that has never like entered my consciousness before until this point. But it really seems like it's a word that I ought to have heard of before. Maybe I'm just a bit late to it. But there it is, suds. It's a very confusing word. Um, there's not a single thing as a sud, but there is a suds. And SN, a bratty kid, could be snot. I know this because I've tried looking at like a clue database for snot when I was making my own puzzles, and people don't like to use the word snot. At least not these guys here. I mean they don't like to use the word snot in relation to the actual like what snot is, so they always do it figuratively. Bratty kid is always referred to figuratively as a snot, and you might think like yeah like you can see it, but it's kind of weird. I think it's just because the New York Times has they also have to maintain some kind of image like professionally or whatever. But um, yeah, there's a very good reason why they wouldn't clue snot as the actual snot, just for PR reasons, I think. Stays in line as waits. Buried could be hid. You might have buried something hid. Fruit drink. This is also something else that's like in the same sense of this, or what was that? Ices. You have AIDS as well. Lemonade, limeade, orangeade. I don't think it is actually a word, but it's a word enough for this. Huh could be what, and org with metal detector is a TSA. Nice. Like I said, very clever theme. I'm a big fan of when people can use these nice visuals inside just to make it a bit more interesting. And of course, this is nice because they also look like the letter that they represent. We have disco, we have tango and ballet, and of course they are versions of break dances. But of course, beyond that, there's even more to this theme, which is the fact that you have these very unique ways to break the dance with these letters. Um, this is sort of I guess this is sort of how you evaluate like the freshness of themes. There are a lot of themes in the past that have dealt with breaking certain things. Um, for example, like breaks character is a phrase you might say, break character, and the way that the New York Times has done that before was that they had like different characters like comma or like hyphen, and they would hide those across two words. So there would be a black square, for instance, where this is, and then this would start with like hi, and then fen at the end past this. So you would have two words that are both clued normally, and you would have this shaded in to show that hyphen is spanning across this black square. If this were here, the black square were here, and that's been done quite a few times. Um, there's something like split second. Also, I can think of that. Split second. You also have words hidden across two different words split by a black square in the middle, and just things like that. You know, I think at some point, like it would be nice to in order to distinguish your theme from the other candidates of puzzle submissions, to have something extra um, that couldn't just be done in the other cases. Like for instance, this one. I mean, having the symbols here that also happen to look like letters is something that can only be specific to break dances, and I think that's what sets this apart from other very similar ideas of themes. This is not the same as the breaks character or the split second one. This is just something entirely unique, and I think it's a nice touch that Brad was able to do this on top of I already mentioned these ones. I just think it's nice. Um, it is something that's also very memorable with these. Yeah. Um, did I wait? What happened with this? Did I happen to not put a C there? Because I'm just looking at like how come there are still um some of these answers that are like they're not blacked out. They're still black, meaning that somehow they're still not been answered. But perhaps it's just because of some glitch or something with these letters. But yeah. Um, maybe the checker just didn't account for these, which is interesting, but it's a part of the theme. All right. Yeah, that's all for today.